Welcome. Hello, Tio. I am so happy yet again for the second episode of this series. And every time we bring new topics. So today we want to touch on something that we left off from the last episode. And in last episode, Tio wanted to elaborate a little bit more on the topic of faith. And it's not something to talk from a perspective of religion, but something that is all within us. And how do we find faith within us? And how do we find strength, power, trust within ourselves, which is the type of faith that we're talking about. And then I wanted to also talk about building relationships and building healthy relationships with other people, but especially with ourselves, which is how we want to blend all of these topics into one, because at the end of the day, it is about finding that harmony and balance and ebb and flow within existence within ourselves, so that it also penetrates through our life with other people, in romantic relationships, in family dynamics, in how we basically walk through life in any situation, also in work, with our colleagues, with our managers, with our peers, whoever it is, even with, animals, or with nature, or with plants, with anything really. So that is the topic of today, which I'm super curious about, how we're going to kind of just blend it all. It seems like maybe not very obvious to begin with, but I'm curious, Tio, what do you have to say to begin with, as you wanted to talk about faith? So I would love to invite you to share a little bit more what you were inspired to share in the last episode.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very interesting to mix these two topics of, so when I was talking about faith last time, it was coming from this idea of perfectly imperfect. And I see faith as a higher force when power and trust are coming together. So when you are fully connected to your power and you have trust in yourself and your capabilities, in the idea that the universe is perfectly imperfect, it's never going to reach perfection, and it's always going to stay in this zone of perfectly imperfect. That for me is what gives me faith in myself, is that always remembering that I'm not looking for perfection. I'm looking for how to navigate the imperfection perfectly. So it's, if I am connected to my creativity, my resourcefulness, my power, I trust in myself that I can perfectly navigate this imperfect reality. And that is what is interesting. That is what is so interesting, because if everything was perfect, I hate the idea of heaven. It's so disgusting for me, because that is death for me. Like, it's not after death, that is death. Like, when everything has become so perfect, there is nothing to do. There is nothing to
Boring, isn't it?
keep you alive. Yeah, it's like, what am I doing here?
Right. And actually, it's funny because it reminds me of an experience that I had this morning that I shared with you pre-recording, that I was completely randomly invited to participate in this satsang experience, the gathering, a spiritual gathering of one of the spiritual teachers in the local environment here in Portugal, in the southwest coast. And what I noticed that as I was observing the whole satsang experience was that a lot of people were asking questions from this perspective, as if there is a destination to arrive, as if there is this perfection to reach, as if there's some kind of like, oh, one day when I get there, then I will be happy, then I will feel fulfilled, then it will be, perfect. And yet the teacher kept on saying, who is asking all these questions? who is the person? From which part of you are you asking this question? Because if you're asking that question, if you even have that question, if you're seeking those kind of answers, then it already means that you're coming from a place of lack and scarcity, and as if you're separate from that imperfectly perfect place. And so as I was observing all of that, then you know what I thought? People just don't know how to embrace the ebbs and flows. People just lost this ability to enjoy the good and the bad, the both, because it is about, you know, the tension and the harmony. It is a matter of finding balance and navigating through life and through relationships in a way that is, it's empowering, actually, because when you face adversities, when you face uncertainties, when you face some kind of a conflict within yourself or with another person, for example, well, it gives you something to work on. It gives you something to learn. It gives you something to embrace. So I think we have lost even the ability to be grateful for life as is. And we just constantly want to be someone else, somewhere else, and doing something else, as if, you know, it's like, oh, but it's uncomfortable. Oh, but it's stressful. Oh, but it's, you know, it brings me anxiety, and there's a lack of fulfillment. Yeah, but if you just listen, if you're just sitting down and you just slow down a little bit, if you just listen to what's here, actually, you don't need to be anywhere else.
Mhm.
You're already there always. It's just we lost, we forgot it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's very interesting that, you know, this whole destination-based mindset, people don't realize that every time they find the destination, how disappointed they are. And then they have to look for the next destination, and they have to look for the next destination that will keep them happy. And this is a pretty common concept. But I think also the reason that a lot of people sabotage their real ultimate dream goal, which will actually make them feel really good, is because they feel like that is the end of the journey and there is nothing else after that. And what I work with people especially is how to create an infinite journey where that massive dream goal that you have is just one tiny drop on a series of massive dream goals that become more and more interesting, that become more and more, they make you more alive, you know. So it's like, get it. It doesn't, like, getting it doesn't mean that you will have nothing else. Like, getting there means you will reach the next level where you will have new goals and where you will have new opportunities and new interests. But people
What
are
is yours, Theo? What is yours? What is your ultimate goal?
right now, I stopped going there. Like, now I don't have any because my mindset shifted completely. I don't need that to feel that. I feel that way all the time. I used to be in a super achiever mindset. Like, I grew up in India, which is like the one of the most competitive places, you know. It's, for everything there are like a million people who can replace you. So you have to be at least, right? At least a million people. So you have to be like constantly, you know, like doing your best in this very competitive achiever mindset. And some part of me was immune to that. Like, I was never really concerned about academic achievements. I was usually in the bottom 20% of my class, but still somehow I managed to get into the top university. I was working for Amazon as a software developer. You know, like, these are people's dream big goals. But for me, getting it was just like, okay, I'm doing this.
So now I'm super curious to hear more about that, because I think that is something that a lot of people who are potentially listening to this conversation want to understand. So you drop that, and nowadays you just live in that place of harmony, and you live in a place of just feeling fulfilled all the time. So what would you say are the key elements for someone who is also wanting to experience that and live that way? What is needed to drop those goals and to drop that seeking and to constantly look for something and just be like, you know what? That's who I am. That's how I live now. This is how I feel every day, all day. So what would be your answer to that?
For me personally, it was like deep work, because I feel like these programs are deeply embedded in the culture and they end up pervading our consciousness at very deep levels. So it's not something that will happen overnight, but the mindset, once it starts shifting, of course, you have to keep practicing, keep practicing. But I think, again, the trap here is I will get to this place, this goal, this destination where I will be content. And if you think in that way, again, you're back in the same trap. You're trying to achieve contentment, right? Like, so
Yeah.
the goal is to start realizing that whatever I am experiencing, whatever level of contentment I'm experiencing is also okay. And from that place, I can go to the next level. It's not to go to the goal, the destination, but just go to the next level, the next step. That mindset, creating that mindset or shifting to that mindset from the achiever is very challenging, because there is usually no emphasis on the journey. There's no emphasis on, like, I am good where I am and I'm coming from that place. I'm not going to somewhere, I am coming from somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Most people are getting to something, and I have, after many years of deep work, started living from where I am instead of to where I want to be.
So could I summarize what you just said in my own words, and please correct me
Or yes, of course.
I understand it correctly. So what you're saying is that what shifted for you is that instead of constantly looking for what's next, you instead shifted your mindset to be like, how can I make the most out of the now? How can I experience and embrace the presence of where I'm at in my life, in this day, in this moment, and just embrace the ups and downs, the imperfections, all of what the present moment presents me with. And then as I'm experiencing, then the only next thing is, okay, what's next? So it's basically the shift between already looking for what's next and never really experiencing this, but now it's the other way around, where, okay, this is where I'm at and this is what I love. I'm embracing it with my whole essence, and then whatever is next is going to just naturally unfold. Is that, do I understand correctly?
Yes, and I will add something to that, is that you can still have goals on top of all of this. Right? You can still want things. The difference is that you're wanting from a place where of contentment. You're not wanting from a place of lack. You're not wanting from a place of need. So I have some goals, some visions. Like I purchased a property in the jungle next door, like just 500 meters from here. And I want to build something there where I can create more immersive experiences for people to come here and experience the jungle and all this consciousness work. So I have that as my dream, as my vision. I don't like to say goals, it's my vision, which I want to materialize. It's one of my visions which I want to materialize. I have many. And yeah, like, it's that I am coming from where I am today to materialize that. And yes, there is the aspect of I will do my effort, my work to materialize those visions, and the universe will keep filling the blanks. Like some I don't even need to stress so much about like that. I feel like that's what you said, like to be in the flow is, for me, that things also keep happening. You are in sync. So you have to do your work. It's not about just about sit back and watch the universe like a movie. It's to
Yeah.
be engaged,
Yeah.
and things are being filled in. You are not alone here. There are many forces at play, and things will keep coming in, and you have to integrate that. For me, the way I see it is, before this mindset, a lot of people, when they're in the victim mindset, and they may not even see themselves as victims, but the idea is that circumstances are my enemy, something I have to control, something I have to dominate. Like, this is literally the whole world right now is trying to dominate nature as something against us. Nature is against us. And I feel like the mindset I entered through a lot of struggle, because it's so deep, that programming in the culture. I entered the place where the circumstances are a resource for me. How do I incorporate whatever is happening into my plan? And for that, my plan has to be open to the unknown. A lot of times people are creating plans to exclude the unknown. They want to know everything and, don't factor in the unknown at all. Like, I will factor in all the possibilities that I can, but nothing unknown should happen. My plan has to go perfectly. And the way I create plans is, there's a lot of space for the unknown, because that is a resource for me.
Yeah, makes total sense. And it resonates with me a lot, because when talking about goals, for example, I also no longer have goals as such, however you want to call it, whether that's a goal, a destination, a vision. But in the past, it was like, oh, I want to have to live in that kind of house, or to have that kind of a job, or to be in that kind of a relationship. But then at some point I realized that actually what really matters to me is to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
That's all. And meaning happy, not being ecstatic and all over the place, like, but it's more like contentment and peace, and having a good relationship with myself. And if I have that good relationship with myself, then everything else is going to unfold exactly the way it has to. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't have standards. And when I talk about standards, that means, there's a certain type of relationship that I want. There is a certain type of dynamic that I want with my friends. There is a certain type of exchange and interaction with my family members that I want. There are certain standards in my lifestyle, and how I want to live, and what I want to experience in my life. Now, does it mean that it will bring me to live in that particular house? No, because I'm completely detached from where and how I'm going to live. At the end of the day, still, what's the most important is how I'm going to feel. And then actually it's beautiful also that we come back to what we spoke in the very beginning. It's faith and trust. And it's power. And power, believing in yourself, that if I have a great relationship with myself and I feel peaceful, joyful, content, then I also, of course, and because I'm detached from that specific vision and that like a snapshot of how I think things are supposed to be and unfold, then it's like, I don't care as long as I'm happy. And I trust that things are going to unfold the way they are supposed to unfold. And those external circumstances, like you said, they are going to present me with opportunities, and they're going to present me with what's actually important to me. And sometimes it will be like, you know what, it doesn't feel right to me. It's a great opportunity, thanks, but no thanks. And sometimes it will be like, interesting, I never thought about it this way, but actually, why not? Maybe it's something that will bring me even more close to what I'm meant to experience in my lifetime. So it's a beautiful journey to just walk through life and see at all of these opportunities showing up, and like, okay, this is interesting, this is not, this is not, but this is interesting, and it applies to everything. It applies to, like, I don't know, job offers or business opportunities or people that you meet. Maybe that's somebody that you would like to have a romantic relationship. Maybe it's somebody who might become a great friend. All of these kind of things.
Yeah. It's fascinating how different is the perspective when these shifts take place. And one of the things, like, this is a small promotion, right? It's not really a promotion yet, because I wrote this booklet back in 2020, which I've never really promoted or anything. It just lives on my website. If anyone wants to go and check it out, buy it, whatever. But it's like 50 pages only, or even less, where just like the idea is, so the name of the booklet is A World Beyond Mistakes. And the byline is, mistakes are gateways to another world that might just be more beautiful. Which is very much what you were saying, just said in a very different way, is that, oh, like, I thought it's supposed to go this way, but for some reason a mistake happened and it went that way. And instead of crucifying myself, instead of trying to get back on that track, let me see what has opened up. Let me see, like, this new reality is opening up from this mistake. And maybe it's not a mistake. Maybe my unconscious is intervening to help me to see what I really want. I thought what I wanted was here. I thought I'm going to get it in this direction. But actually, my unconscious, I trust my unconscious that there is much more to me that is opening up doors, and I have to be fully present to what my unconscious is presenting me.
And what you just said causes so much suffering, because when people are looking at, okay, this is how I want things to be, and then this mistake happened, like, oh my God, instead of looking differently, like, oh, okay, I will shift my gears and I will look differently at the whole situation, and I will embrace this mistake and actually turn it into an opportunity, then they're like, oh, they're focusing on it from this very sad place, as if like, oh my gosh, everything is now collapsing. No, it's not. Like, look here. There are, there's a bright side of the coin, like there's always duality. There is something negative, then there's always something positive, and you can always learn from any negative situation. I think I mentioned also in our last conversation, or maybe not, I'm not sure. A lot of people would say, oh, when you lose someone in your life, then it's terrible. Like, my mom passed away when she was 47. I was 23 at the time. I could see it as the worst thing that happened in my life, but I don't, because actually it was also a blessing. Because actually, because of that situation, I am where I am today. One of the things, of course, there are many, many, many other things that happened, but it was one of the contributing happenings in my life that turned me to look differently, instead of like, oh my gosh, I'm so poor, I'm such a victim, my mom passed away and like my life is just a disaster. No, I was like, yeah, okay, what can I learn from this experience? Let's see, let's look what's out there. We're so attached to how we think things are supposed to be, which basically means we think that we know it all, while in fact, of course we don't. Of course we don't.
Yeah, and there's so much to say here. I don't even know which one to say first. But this for me, it brings me back to faith, but religious faith, because religion, I mean, whatever you're talking about, for me, is like very deep cultural conditioning. The reason people are in this place of suffering is that they have never been taught something different. And they have not been taught something different because even the ones before them don't know any better. Like, humanity is trapped in this vicious cycle. And, it just keeps perpetuating. This loop just keeps perpetuating. And some people break out of it and some people start creating alternatives. Somehow or the other, even those alternatives just get wrapped back into the matrix and continues to perpetuate suffering. Like, so many religions, gurus, they start off with solutions and become the problem, because people start thinking that this is the way now. Like, people get attached to the way, they get attached to the method, they get attached to the known each time. Like now I know how to do it and I will always do it this way. And the whole morality of religion is very rigid. It's very fixed. Like we have to always behave this way every time, whatever happens. So for me, it's bizarre. That is like, it's bizarre now. And I have never been religious. Like I grew up in India. They tried their best, did not work. Like pretty much from the age of 10, I started rejecting religion, which was very weird. Like in India, to start rejecting religion at 10 is.
But by the way, this is another thing that we have in common, because I totally relate to this. Lithuania is a Catholic country, and as I was growing up, one of my grandmas, my father's mother, she's religious, and as I was growing up, she would always push me and force me to like pray and to thank Jesus, and she would give me like a cross to put somewhere on the wall in my room, and she would give me a little book to read before going to sleep, and things like that. And somehow it just caused so much resistance inside of me. I was like, no way I'm going to subscribe to all this. And somehow I built this very strong, how to say, like, because the country and the society in Lithuania is still very religious, we would go to have, like, I don't know, some kind of ceremony in the church just because like everybody does it. So we also do it just because, and then we would go to the church and everybody is doing this whole thing. And I would just literally, I would stand in front of my grandma, like on purpose like this, and I wouldn't do anything because I just didn't feel like I needed to subscribe to something that is just given, until at some point, I'm still not religious, but until at some point I realized, you know what, maybe there is still something. There's some kind of a higher, power and source and universe, however you want to call it. However, it's still not a religion. It's just it's universal laws. It's a very different thing. So it's just funny to see that you experience something like this where they were trying to shove it down your throat, and it was exactly the same for me, and we both were like, no.
Yeah, I was a super rebellious child, but I think the way I see it now, and this is not because I come from India, but like you said, it was they were trying to shove it down from every corner. In India is literally the motherland of spirituality, and I hated spirituality. I hated religion. For me, spirituality is another religion, the way it is practiced in the mainstream. And I came to the place where I am today because I started having direct experiences. I did not need to believe anything anymore. I was actually there. I was actually seeing my past lives, for example. And I believe that people like us have such a strong rebellion from such an early age because of the work we have done in past life. We are on this journey, not just here now, but we have been doing this for a long time. And we have created something within us which will resist and be immune to these kinds of influences. I mean, for a 10-year-old in such a heavy situation, to be able to say no and to become like not just to say no, but to become blasphemous. Like I remember when I was, I think maybe 11 or 12 in school, like everyone's talking about God and religion and all this. And like I started doing something bad, and they were like, aren't you afraid? Like God will punish him. Like, fuck God. Like, fuck God. Like, what will God do? He will strike me down with lightning. Okay, I'm ready. Where is the lightning? Look, nothing is happening. I'm saying fuck God and nothing is happening. So what am I afraid of? And the children were like, what is happening?
That's incredible. That's incredible.
But of course, like that was as a child. Now I have a very different perspective. I have a lot of respect for religion now because I see the place it has and the ways that it helps people also. And like, over the last 8 years, because I started having direct experiences, I also like, I believe that there are not just one God, there are gods. There are these beings in other dimensions that are at different levels of consciousness. The only difference is I don't believe in worshiping them. I believe that we can have that power, that we are multidimensional and we can be connected to our own source of power. And that for me is like, be your own God. Why do you need another God?
So much there. So one thing that I personally, the way I see the whole religion and spirituality, all of these kind of topics, is that I think people simply misunderstand what faith is. And like even Bible and other spiritual books or religious books, actually they speak about spirituality rather than religion. It's just a matter of how the egoic mind of a simple human being interprets it. Do they interpret it as a spiritual guidance or as a religious guidance? And those are two very different things. And the way I personally see it is that, in fact, every religion and even quantum physics and even neuroscience, and basically there's so much evidence by now that all of these things, all of these teachings, all of the science talks about one and the same thing, that there are different dimensions and that we are the one creating our reality. That's it. Actually, that is really as simple as that. And when you say about worshiping, that was actually exactly what I experienced this morning in this satsang experience, because this lady was sitting on a pedestal, and okay, fine, you're teaching, you have this microphone situation and you're sharing your insights, wonderful. I respect all of that, and she has a lot of great things to share, a lot of wisdom, wonderful. But the way some of the people in the audience were worshiping her, that was something that I was like, there's disconnect there, because these people in the audience didn't realize that what she's actually representing is them. What she is actually representing is that she is you. You are the guru. You are the person who is creating your reality. You are the one who is, building yourself up, designing your own life. You are the one choosing how to experience life, how to experience your emotions, how to experience your thoughts, which thoughts to choose, which thoughts to let go of, and so on and so forth. And so that is what religion is all about, putting someone on a pedestal or something on a pedestal, and then somehow worship them as if the power is there, while in fact it's here. It always has been. So it's talking about faith, as this is the topic of today. Yeah, my take on this whole topic is that, and I will keep on talking about it with my clients, with the people who are listening to these conversations, and everyone really in who I can have a conversation in daily life, is that at the end of the day, we are the ones creating our reality. That's what, for me, faith is. Like, do I believe in myself? Do I have faith in myself to create myself and my life and my relationships in the way that I want, in the way that feels good, in the way that is aligned with who I truly am? And what does it mean to do things that are in alignment with who I truly am? If it feels right, even if it's a little bit scary, even if it's a little bit terrifying, but somehow deep down that is the right thing to do, that's the right thing to do. And that, to me, what faith is. And that, to me, is the foundation of healthy relationships with yourself and with everything and everyone in the world.
Yeah, I think we should start wrapping it. I want to say something to wrap it, which will be a good teaser for the next one. Like it's in relation to what we've been speaking about, that people are looking for a final truth. They're looking for a final answer, a final destination, a final everything. They just want to stop this torture of not knowing and everything. And for them, not knowing is a torture. The unknown is a torture. And for me, it is to create that space within yourself where not knowing is the gift.
Mm. It gives me goosebumps everywhere.
And
Yeah.
the teaser I want to leave for next time from my side is that what you were talking about, this idea that I have all the power. One of the things is that also people, like you said this last time, that people externalize the power. And I was saying, they externalize it into the position, the role. I am CEO, I am manager, whatever. They externalize the power. And I feel in religion, they externalize the power to God, like, or the guru or the preacher, whatever it is. They externalize the power to these different levels of authority. And I think one of the things that starts happening, which I realized in myself, which was a big lesson and teaching for me, which still is that when we go into the mindset that I have the power and I create my reality, then people switch into the narcissism that I am God and I am the only God. And that is why, I said, I believe there are many gods and many forces influencing. And to be your own God means learning to create your reality in conjunction with all these forces, how to create a harmony with all the forces that exist, all the gods that are trying to influence the reality and create their own reality. How do we create something which is a healthy harmony? Because also what happens when people enter into this narcissism, it creates, the gods who are at war with each other, each trying to do their own things separately and not realizing that they're all really trying to do the same thing, so they can actually do it together. So how to create harmony between gods? Like for me, that is my, if you want to call my big dream, that is my big dream.
So two things that come in my mind. One is it's beautifully connecting back to what we talked about earlier. Where do you come from? So when it comes to narcissism, narcissist actually comes from a scarcity, from a lack place, from a place of hurt, from a place of pain, from a place of I have a void within myself that I need to fill. And therefore I put myself on a pedestal, and then I don't give a shit about anything and anyone around me because I am the God. That's just coming from the wrong place. But if you come from a place of I am love, I'm abundance, I am whole as I am, and I see myself as beautifully, perfectly imperfect as everybody else, that's a very different place to come from. And the other thing that I wanted to say, what did I want to say? I already lost it.
If while it comes back to you, I will just say, yeah, narcissism was a huge topic. I have been studying it for a lot of years. And yeah, it's coming from a place of insecurity and trauma.
Yeah.
And when I talk about narcissism, I acknowledge it in myself, and I believe every human has a narcissistic tendency, and it can be healed. There is real healing that is available there, and it's not a criticism to acknowledge. Or if I say you are a narcissist, it's not a criticism. It's just, okay, now I know this. What can I do about it? The problem in modern therapy is that it is treated as uncurable, and it is something you have to live with, and it is something that everyone has to put up with you, and you have to find coping mechanisms and management strategies to not be such a bad narcissist. And for
Yeah.
me, that's bullshit. Like there is real healing available. It's just
Yeah.
that people don't know how to get there.
And okay, so now you reminded me of the second point that I wanted to share, and that's also wrapping everything up, is that is also how you build healthy relationships with other people, because you embrace life and existence from the right place. You learn through life, through interactions with other people, with situations, you learn from them. It basically, that's another topic that we could definitely dive into. We live in a mirror society. So every interaction, every experience, every relationship is a mirror of your own soul. So basically, if something triggers you and you have a conflict with someone, in fact, you have that conflict because you already have a conflict within yourself. So it just shows you like a mirror, what is there to heal? What is there? What kind of narcissistic behavior maybe you just realized you had? Maybe some kind of a abandonment issue, maybe some kind of betrayal issue, maybe some kind of another traumatic experience that you're still holding on to or being attached to. So actually, that is also specifically how you build healthy relationships with other people, because you take responsibility for your own inner self and inner, happenings. And even if you lose your shit, even if you get frustrated, even if you have a conflict, even if you, I don't know, start shouting at someone or something like that, then you take responsibility and you ask for forgiveness, or you apologize, or you basically take ownership over what is happening and why you behave the way you behave. And then you learn from that so that you become a better version of yourself moving forward. And then it's like, it just gets better and better and better and better and better from there.
I'm very tempted to leave one more teaser, which is not for the next episode, but for somewhere down the line. That I was having this conversation with someone who he's a coach too, and he repeated 3 times in our 40-minute or 1 hour call that he helps people to come back to themselves. And I was like, that is great. This is what a lot of people need and a lot of people are working on. And I just want to say, like, what you are talking about for me is, again, like coming back to yourself, and mirroring helps you to see yourself better. I just want to say that that's not the end. Like, then you help people come back to themselves. I help them go beyond and go out of themselves again. So the way I was explaining it is, like coming back to yourself is one way of putting it. But the way I see it is that people are trapped in this tiny corner of their self. So if we see the self as a mansion, they're living in a tiny cellar in the basement. They live their whole lives from that place. Like you said, scarcity, insecurity, fear, what is outside the cellar is too scary for me. And I help, so a lot of people, the coaches, they work to become the mansion, be your whole self, embody your whole power. And of course, I help people with that too. I also help people to open the door of the mansion and go out. That is for me where the game becomes a lot more interesting. And that is where real relationships start, because you can actually start meeting other mansions. You can start seeing the other mansions out there and really seeing them, not even just as a reflection, like really seeing them. In my way of seeing things is, while you're living inside the mansion, you live in a mirror reality. You're being reflected. When you're ready to go out of the mansion, then you can just see people directly. You can see the other mansion without, you're not seeing it through your mansion. You're seeing it just, that is another mansion.
Powerful. So, well, this teaser, I'm also excited. Like, what are we going to dive into this juicy stuff? Super cool. So, okay, to wrap it all up, my personal takeaway from this, you dropped it very perfectly. The unknown is the gift. To me, that was like, oh my gosh, that's so beautiful, because so many people, indeed, they're just not familiar. They're not comfortable with discomfort. They're not comfortable with the unknown. They're not comfortable with uncertainty. And yet, life doesn't exist without uncertainty, without the unknown. It is a part of your existence. It always will be, it always was. And that to me is like a huge one, actually. And definitely I will contemplate on that after the call as well. What are your takeaways?
I think I shared them all already. I feel good to wrap it here and say we will continue next time.
Awesome. Thank you, the listener, and see you in the next one.
Thank you.